It just is not very wise for me to drive to the Roastery Coffee Company here in Grand Bay until I've had my first dose of caffeine in the morning. All right? So, their owner, Johnny Gaston, was kind enough to recommend the Bambino Plus from Breville, even though I was kind of whining and crying about the cost. You see it right here? Let me move my finger back right there. See, that's the Bambino Plus. And I was at the drive-thru, and I had one of those cheap DeLonghi ones, but you can get an expensive DeLonghi, but you shouldn't. But and it went out on me a few weeks ago, and I'd bought that DeLonghi used, and I got to looking at them. It's like, I don't know if I want to spend that much. I didn't want to buy the same one because that one had gone out on me. So I started looking at some that had a little more quality. And when I got to finding the ones that had some quality that were that had the options I wanted, because I don't want something that's so automatic that it's just punching a button and it's making the espresso it wants you to have. See, now I'm too much of a control freak for that. So I have a discerning palate when it comes to my coffee. So I got to looking. Well, when I found the ones that had the options on it that I wanted, it was expensive. It's easy to spend $1,000 or more on a good espresso machine. No, I'm Redneque, spelled Redneque. So I am a little, a little bougie. But I'm not, no, that much for a home espresso machine, couldn't do it. So I was there at the drive-through, and I was asking him about it, and he said, "Well, you can get this one." And I said, "Well, I don't want to spend so much money." And he was like, "Oh, well, what about this, that, the other?" And so he recommended the Breville Bambino Plus. Well, he recommended the Bambino. We ended up getting the Bambino Plus because he explained that there were ways you could do what I wanted to do with it. You could control the length that you pulled a shot and that sort of stuff. So that kind of thing. We went and looked, $500. $500 for a coffee maker. Good God. Got to be out of my mind. Of course, I didn't spend $500 on this one. Deidre found this one on Amazon, a little bit cheaper. But still, this is not your father's old Mospresso, darling. It is not. It's not your father's coffee maker. It sure ain't. So my first one I had, like I said, was a real El Cheapo. No, not the DeLonghi was not my first one, but the first espresso machine I ever owned in my life was back in the late 90s. I think it came from Walmart maybe. And I mean, like the little steam wand. You see how this Breville over here has that metal wand? This one was like a little plastic nozzle, and was making coffee on it one day, and the nozzle just blew off. It was cheap. It was cheap. But this was back in the late 90s when there weren't really coffee shops in this area. If you went to a larger city, you might come across one. But occasionally someone around here would open one. It'd stay open for a few months, and then it'd close up. Might stay open for a year at the most. Back then it was hard to get rednecks to pay that much money. $4 for a cup of coffee. Dang, I can go to the Waffle House for 99 cents and drink all the coffee I want. I heard that so many times and everything, but no, this was back when coffee shops looked like there was tow main lurking around in the corners down around the baseboards and stuff. And you were pretty sure, because they get these old couches from like the Salvation Army and the Goodwill, and that's what you sit on, like sitting in your living room drinking coffee, and be paint peeling on the ceiling and that kind of stuff. And you're pretty sure that those couches and those easy chairs had body lice, maybe some body fluids on them, But this was long before the coffee shops were like polished corporate sort of entities, And I got to say, the Roastery, a coffee company here in Grand Bay, it kind of strikes a happy median. Johnny's got a nice, clean place there, but it still has that kind of relaxed, kind of homey feeling to it. But the barista back then, in the 90s, was a lot more kind of like a bartender, but he was tending coffee instead of alcohol, of course. It wasn't like nowadays where most of the time you go in, that person behind the counter is just pushing buttons and serving up some hot coffee-flavored stuff to you. Back then there was a lot more of an art to it. And Johnny does do some of that there at the Roastery Coffee Company there in Grand Bay. But old Johnny, though, I got to be honest. I mean, I've known Johnny for a long time. And I got to be honest, I didn't know old boy was good for anything besides smiling and playing the guitar. I mean, he was a nice guy. He was always smiling, always seemed to be happy. And he played the guitar. But I didn't know the dude knew anything else, to be honest with you. But he does seem to know his coffee inside and out, up and down, forwards and backwards. And more than that, he seems to really know how to serve his clientele and to deal with the public. I think that's where all that smiling comes in at. Because that boy smile now. That boy smiles so big you can see his pancreas. Seriously, he just seems to be happy. I need some of what he's got sometimes, because sometimes I am grumpy. But it's seriously, if he keeps this up with his coffee company and his smiling and all of that kind of stuff, I mean, eventually he's going to amount to something worth knocking in the head one day, be honest with you. I just hope I'm there to see the knocking or maybe take part in it. As a side note, though, Johnny and David Lindell, that owns that building down there where they're at. They're on Grand Bay Wilmer Road, just south of Interstate 10's exit 4, right there in the curve. If you're going south, just as it curves left. If you keep going straight, you don't curve with the road, you're going to go right off into his parking lot there. Don't run over nobody now. Watch where you're going. But Johnny and David and some other people down there, some folks down there, are really transforming that old Dollar General and the payday loan check cashing place what used to be in there. They're really transforming it into a nice little commercial strip mall sort of building area down there, I see. David's brother, Biggs, and some other guys was out there a few days ago. Looked like they were preparing to put in like a children's playground off to the side there. Kind of reminds me of the old McDonald's when I was growing up, and they had the playgrounds out there where you could climb around and grimace and the Hamburglar, and they had slides and stuff there at McDonald's, talking about back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. Looked like they're putting in something kind of like that. So they're really turning it into something to be proud of. I mean, it's Grand Bay, and the building, of course, doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to other people in Grand Bay. It belongs to them. So what is it you're being proud of? Well, it does make a difference when you're coming home. I live south of the interstate. You're coming home and you take exit 4 there and you go over the bridge, past the Chevron and everything. It's just you getting the loop. You glance off to the right. It's just the aesthetics of it. It's clean now. It's nice. They got it looking nice. It doesn't look empty, vacant, and run down. It's just something to be proud of in the metropolis of Grand Bay, Alabama. And I'm Dane.